Um, so I wanted to make a few announcements. I haven't been here in front of this mic in a while, so I want to take the opportunity. Spiritual Growth Circle today at 1 o'clock. That's the first announcement. The second one is kind of a new one. So some of you in this congregation had been meeting at a friend of the church, Tat Fu Tan, who's spoken here a couple times, who moved back to Malaysia to take care of his mother. So those of you who know Tat Fu, a little heads up there. But the point, how it concerns us, is now that meditation group is going to be held here in the parish hall every Saturday morning at 11, except for the first Saturday because social justice is here. But that on the first Saturday we'll be here in the sanctuary. So if anyone's interested in checking it out, it's a little closer to home, our home, Unitarian Church of Staten Island. That's going to be 11 a.m. Saturday, and we're on next Saturday. See me with any questions. The final announcement is next week on Sunday at 3 p.m. Sanchi Barbaro and the Mighty String Demons, Eric and John are part of that band, will be having what they're calling a gratitude concert right here. So that's 3 p.m. here next Sunday, and there'll be a second hospitality over there. So you guys get to have coffee and bagels twice in one day and enjoy some music. Maybe we should do something besides bagels. I don't know. Figure it out. All right. So that's all for announcements. Just please support our social media outreach. Please like and share our weekly posts on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, all of our services are on YouTube. And for those in person, we gently remind you to please silence your mobile devices at this time. And now let us prepare for this morning's service.
It is good to be here. It is good to see you. It is good to be in community on a chilly Sunday in autumn. And I know it's also a difficult time for many of us. One joy I want to offer as we gather into this space is that in the last month, a family contacted this congregation, this specific congregation, because they wanted burial prayers for their patriarch, their elder, 98-year-old man who lived a really vibrant life, and towards the end of his life was very clear he believed in non-dogmatic, inclusive spirituality and wanted to make sure that his burial rites were connected to a tradition that reflected that. Because you shepherd and steward and nurture a community here, that family had a place to turn to on Staten Island. And they were so grateful to know that there is a way you can be spiritual and inclusive, that there are people who nurture and sustain old traditions, that even in a time when so many of us are sad and angry, lost in our phones, lost in a world that feels like there's so much pain, there are people who gather and sing songs about hope and accompaniment and coming together. I know this week some people in this very room went to accompany and support the work to free a young woman, Sarah, who is a graduate of a high school here in Staten Island, who's currently being held in an ICE detention center in New Jersey. I know that there are clergy folk on this island, some at congregations we have friends at the Lutheran congregation, at the Episcopal Church, who are doing what they can to support Sarah's family and to make sure it's possible that she be released. These are difficult times. But I think about our siblings around the world, in India, in the United Kingdom, in Ireland, in South Africa. You can find Unitarian communities all over the world. And in India, their motto is keep on progressing. Know the divine and know humanity. The Unitarians of the United Kingdom say, we declare we are dedicated to civil and religious liberty all over the world. The Irish Unitarians say, we welcome all who wish to worship in a spirit of freedom, reason, and tolerance. And tolerance, they mean acceptance. And Unitarians of Cape Town in South Africa, they say it is in living our values that we confirm our commitment to each other. So when you made a choice to come here this morning, you are nurturing a community that provides burial prayers for elders who want something inclusive to testify to their values. You are nurturing a space where people can show up to help free a young high school student in detention. And you are nurturing a place where babies can laugh. What a joy and what a gift. And in that spirit, I invite John forward to light the chalice and center us as we begin this day.
In our Unitarian Universalist congregations, we light a chalice as a sign of our faith and compassion. Originally, the chalice was used as the symbol of the Unitarian Church's work to help people fleeing dictatorships during World War II. Today, we light a chalice to remind us that every person has dignity. We are all connected, and we all can grow in wisdom and compassion. I invite you to join me in lighting our chalice. The affirmation can be found in our order of service. We light this chalice in the search for truth and the spirit of love. We unite in worship and fellowship.
And as an extension of lighting our chalice, I want to take a moment of silence to light these 3 candles for some of the names of those who have been affected by police brutality. We cannot cover all of the names of those affected, but this morning we'd like to light a candle for the life of Isaiah Laron Treadway, for the life of Luis Fuentes, and for the life of Devario C. Edwards. May these lights be a symbol of our commitment to continue the work of racial justice and to proclaim that Black Lives Matter. And in addition, this morning we're lighting a 4th candle to recognize the impact of war on so many innocent people. May we find a way to live in peace. And please join us now in singing hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come in your gray hymnal. Please stand as you're able.
Rejoice and come.
And now I invite John forward to offer our reading today.
As Unitarian Universalists, we draw upon and are inspired by sacred and secular understandings to seek wisdom and practice compassion. Our reading today is from a modern translation of an ancient Buddhist text, The Way of the Bodhisattva, a series of teachings by the unexpected monk Shantideva. The following is a selection from the book's Prayer of Dedication. May those caught in the freezing ice be warmed, and from the great clouds may torrents rain in boundless streams to cool those burning in infernal fires. May forests where the leaves are blades and swords become sweet groves and pleasant woodland glades, and may the tree of miracles appear, supplanting those upon the hill. And may the very pits of hell be sweet, with fragrant pools all perfumed with the scent of lotuses, and lovely with the cries of swan and goose, and waterfowl so pleasing to the ear. May the hail of weapons, lava, fiery stones become henceforth a rain of flowers, and all the mutual woundings with sharp blades be now a rain of flowers thrown in play. May those in tatters now be clothed, and all the hungry eat their fill, and may those parched with the thirst receive pure waters and delicious drink. May those who go in dread have no more fear. May captives be unchained and now set free, and may the weak receive their strength. May living beings help each other in kindness. May those who lose their way and wander in the wild find fellow travelers, and safe from threat of thieves and savage beasts, may they be tireless and their journey light.
Please turn in your gray hymnal to number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Let's rise and sing together.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use, to build the common good, and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failure, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use, to build the common good, and make our own days glad.
A long time ago, in the 1850s, our congregation was founded by people who were transcendentalists, who saw in nature something amazing and that spirituality was not just about oneself, but the connection we have with one another and with the wider world. In a moment, I'll invite us to join in a responsive reading, which you can find about here in your gray hymn book. It's number 351 in the far back. 531, thank you. 531. And it comes to us from Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is one of the early transcendentalists, along with Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, Elizabeth Peabody, Margaret Fuller, all of these voices inviting us to see the greater connections around us. Number 531, the Oversoul. I'll read the beginning sections, and I invite us as a community to read the italic sections. Praise and Transcendence, the Oversoul. Let us learn the revelation of all nature and thought, that the highest dwells within us, that the sources of nature are in our own minds.
As there is no stream or ceiling between our heads and the infinite heavens, so there is no bar or wall in the soul where we have cease, and God will always be there.
I am constrained every moment to acknowledge a higher origin for events than the will I call my own.
There is deep power in which we exist, and whose beatitude is accessible to us.
Every moment when the individual feels invaded by it, it is memorable.
It comes to the lowly and simple. It comes to whoever will put off what is foreign and proud. It comes as insight. It comes as serenity and grandeur.
The soul's health consists in the fullness of its reception.
Forever and ever, the influx of this better and more universal self is new and unsearchable.
Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is related. Yes, the eternal one.
When it breaks through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affections, it is love.
It is love. Every second Sunday here in our community this year, we are offering religious exploration, which is a time of activities for the youngest among us to gather in wonder and awe and reflection, and to encourage them on their journey to religious exploration and study. We sing a very sweet song called Go Now in Peace, which is number 413 in your gray hymnal. If you are under the age of 10 and would like to join religious exploration, you can follow the wonderful Alex now.
Or if you're over the age of 100, you can also join.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Just a word of excitement as this season comes upon us. November and December are ripe and rich with holidays and holy days from varied traditions as we look at Hanukkah and the solstice and Christmas. In our congregation, there will be ongoing opportunities to continue to bring in food for our food pantry, collect clothes, especially for men, for the day laborers, and also to participate in amazing and fun traditions at the congregation, including the greening of the church, which also has a caroling element. There usually is very tasty dessert at that event, which is later in December. And also on the second Sunday of the month in December, we're going to have a Bring a Friend to Congregation Day. So that particular service, if you have a neighbor, if you have a buddy, if you have a family member who you're like, just try it out. You know, I want to show you what has meant a lot to me. That second Sunday, we'll have a little extra ritual and celebration, and it should be a good marker. On Christmas Eve in December, we will have a meditative service where there'll be readings and songs. And I'm just really grateful for all that will be unfolding. Juliet will be officiating our Christmas Eve service, which is particularly exciting. And just over the coming weeks, it will be darker earlier, it will get colder, but we will do the work of this community to create warmth and care. Thank you.
So now is a time in our service for sharing joys and sorrows. We come together in community to share with one another, to support one another, and to celebrate with one another. We bear sacred witness to each other in this honored ritual. For some of us here today, this has been a week of life-changing joy that needs to be lifted up in this worship. And for others, this has been a time of deep pain and sorrow that needs to be shared to make the burden lighter. If this has been such a time for you, I invite you to raise your hand and to briefly tell us a joy or sorrow in your life that you would like to lift up before the community. And for those joining us online, we invite you to type into the chat your joys and sorrows, and Sally will read them aloud. You may also simply take time to reflect and listen, and to honor the joys and sorrows in the silent sanctuaries of your heart. Would anybody like to share a joy or sorrow? Bonnie and John, So Bonnie first.
Good morning. I'm Bonnie, and I'll start with the joy, and that is that on Thursday evening, we had a wonderful event here, CPR training, and it was well attended, and I really was pleased to have that, and now I feel more comfortable and more confident that there's several people here who took the training, and if something should occur, I really feel confident that we'll be able to take care of that. So I really like that idea, and I feel good about that. My sorrow is that my friend Lisa has requested thoughts and prayers. Her and her family remain homeless since the end of September, and she's now been traveling from hotel to hotel. She's having problems with paperwork, with birth certificates, etc., and has so far unable to get housing assistance from the city. So if you would please keep her and her family in your thoughts and prayers, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I didn't hold my hand up, so I'll do it now. Hi, everybody. I'm Viv, and I'm very excited that Joanna and I are working on a series of videos for the church. We'll shoot our first one today with Reverend Daniel called Welcome to UUCSI. So guess the topic, just imagine. But these are short videos, and we have like a series of them planned of showing people maybe a little tour, maybe an introduction to what happens in a service, and then we'll put them on our social media and YouTube and share them. And it's a way to do more outreach. But I'm so happy to be working with Joanna. Thank you.
Thank you.
87 years ago tonight, the Third Reich began a pogrom against the Jews in Germany. Today, the United States is involved in the pogrom against others.
Good morning, I'm Sarah Rachel. Last Monday was my 82nd birthday, and thank you. And I received wonderful birthday greetings. I have families all over the place, whether it's Trinidad, India, all over the US, the Navajo Reservation, and everybody came through and wished me happy birthday, plus course, my family, my son, my daughter, and my grandkids. So it was really a wonderful day. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Hi, my name is Kathy. So yesterday, Maureen and Susan Flynn and I were able to get together with a former member of our church, Kathy Kinney, who some of you may know as Kathy Nutt, who moved away to Dallas many years ago, but she's back in New York because her daughter Molly had a baby recently. The baby is 10 months old, and we got to see the baby, we got to reconnect with Kathy, and it was very pleasant.
Thank you.
So I'm Mary, and my joy is that so many people so rapidly pulled together to support a young girl, graduate of Port Richmond High School, who was arrested as part of a raid on October 29th. Many people from this congregation were at a demonstration in her support yesterday. And I'm also in kind of a sorrow state to say that following the joy of that demonstration and the fact that many people were able to connect to set up legal assistance for her, we found out, and the positive is that the police are breaking ranks and not wanting to comply and informing what's going on because a police officer contacted numbers of people who he could identify from photos of the rally to inform them, you have to get an emergency habeas corpus petition in immediately or they're going to transfer her out of New Jersey, because if they get her to Texas or Louisiana, you know, the hope of her getting her case through is virtually nil. And this is what they're doing now. So anyway, there are people who are helping on their way right now to the detention facility, or they may already be there, and putting that habeas corpus petition in this morning, hopefully to forestall her being taken out of state. And so it's a big joy that that's happening. And my hope is that, you know, I think part of why there was so much ability to galvanize support is because this is a girl who speaks English, who went to school here, who all the teachers know her, and that kind of support has not been so available for people who don't speak English and didn't necessarily go to school here. So hopefully, because we have this galvanizing movement going, that can start to support other people who are in similar positions as well.
Thank you, Mary.
Hello. My name is Carol, and I just want to let you know that this Wednesday evening at 7:30 at the JCC on Manor Road, the Building Bridges Coalition of Staten Island presents stories of faith. Seniors, adults, young adults are welcome to ask questions about religious belief and practice. A panel of clergy of several different faiths will present stories. The panel comprises of Buddhists, Catholic, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, and Protestant. So anyone who's interested, 7:30 at the JCC on Manor Road. Thank you. Wednesday evening.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Claudette Duff. Last week I was wondering, I was trying to find people who were doing something for Jamaica in the aftermath of the hurricane. I couldn't really find any organization doing anything. And I understand, you know, like right now we have to feed the people here because of the SNAP, because of the government stopping the funding of SNAP. And But I felt that I didn't have that privilege to do nothing, being in the country of my birth. So I didn't stop, and I was able to get, coaches, Lois and Richard Nicotra, to give me a spot in the lobby of one of the corporate buildings to collect non-perishables and gently used clothing. So I'm really happy about that. We'll launch that this Wednesday, and so that's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I thought I saw more hands. No. Sally, no. Oh, I did see more hands.
I have a joy I want to share from Reverend Emily DeTar-Burt, who's a former minister of this congregation. Her child is still in the NICU, but is doing so much better, and she is 6 pounds now. They're hoping in December she'll be able to go home, but Reverend Emily just wanted to make sure the congregation knew her little one is growing, is healthy, overcame a bout of COVID in the hospital, but is still growing and going strong and getting bigger every day. So she just wanted to express the gratitude for all the love you've been sending. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we have from Chelsea, who's online. I have a sorrow to share today. This week, a friend of mine died rather suddenly. She was a vibrant, kind person, and it is still a shock to know she is gone. One of the things we were able to do together in past years was help stock a community pantry around Thanksgiving. She really was such a generous and kind person. Ironically, this week I was already coming to you all to ask you, help the Social Justice Committee keep our little pantry stocked through the month. Now I ask that those that can help me celebrate Kara's life in a way she had often did by sharing herself selflessly with our community and raising up others.
I'm Kevin Clark. I have good news and bad news. The bad news, you might have guessed, Carolyn's not with us. She's at home in bed. She's feeling poorly. Here's the good news. We only live a couple of blocks away, and our good friend Joe Cabrera is here today to play for us and lead us. And if you sing really loud, I think Carolyn may be able to hear
you. Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Gary. So some of you may remember that I mentioned my mom's been in the hospital for quite some time, and in and out of the hospital and in rehab. Last week, Tuesday, the 4th, we had a trial at the hospital, and later that day, she had her first meal since July. Her first meal since July. She's been in the hospital on a G-tube and being fed mechanically through lip IV and everything. And that was a great joy. 2 days later, she's back in the hospital. She was doing exercises, and then her blood pressure was up and down for like 72 hours, and then they sent her to the hospital. The good news is that she's stable. The sorrow, I guess, is that we don't know what's going on at the moment. We're still waiting for results. It's been a roller coaster. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? So let us take this moment to honor the joys and sorrows that remain unexpressed. And also just so many expressed today that maybe to hold these on our hearts. and also for those outside of our walls who are searching for a place to bring the wholeness of their lives and be received with love. And we're now going to pause for meditation. I'll offer a prompt to focus our meditation and then sound the singing bowl. At that point, I invite you to begin the meditation with 3 deep breaths. And after a few minutes, I will sound the singing bowl again to mark the end of our time. Today's meditation prompt is from the Reverend Jim Covington, and it is as follows. I pray our sadness will embolden us to savor life, even as we know more than ever that life is fragile and suffering is inevitable. I pray our hope in the greater goodness of people will not falter. And now is a time in our service where we take an offering. We know it's the gifts of all of us that help support our ability to thrive and to gather. For those attending in person, we'll pass a collection plate. Please use the envelope you'll find in the pew, write your name, and indicate if your offering is part of your pledge or is a donation. For those online, links and instructions will be posted in the chat. You can mail us a check or donate through the PayPal giving page on our website. Please give as generously as you can. Our offerings will be gratefully received. Thank you.
Joe, could you tell us a word about the speech that was very interesting, very different, and very moving? Please tell us who it's by and how you came to find it.
It's a piece called The Drifter by a composer who died about 10 years ago, Blue Jean Tyranny. Is his stage name. His actual name is Robert Sheff. He's best known for working with a composer from New York and California named Robert Ashley. They did many collaborations together, but he's an independent composer, and he wrote this piece for me as a basis of a commission in 1994. It's called The Drifter, and there are actually more sections to it, but it's repetitive, so they can be left out. So that's kind of a little bit about it. There's more to it, but there you go.
Now, our offertory hymn is number 399 in your gray hymnal. But we've got a special treat for it. Sarah is going to sing it through the first time in Hebrew, and then we'll join her the second time through in English. Dave, where's the microphone?
Don't worry about it, Dave.
That's all right. Okay.
Here you go. Wait, sorry. Oh, for Sarah.
Joe, whenever you're ready, just give me the first.
Check.
Lo yisa goy goy khara, lo yene du milchama. Lo yisa goy goy khara, lo yene du milchama. Lo yisa goy goy khara, lo yene du milchama. Lo yisa goy goy khara, lo yene du.
And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. In a very ancient book, the book of Isaiah, there's a phrase that says, "Comfort my people." Doesn't say distract my people or trick my people, but comfort, comfort. And the tradition that we are part of, Unitarian Universalism, is one that for centuries has been hearing ancient stories and trying to discern what they might mean in our moment. Originally, the old school Unitarians and Universalists, they wrestled primarily with Jewish and Christian scripture, sometimes Islamic texts, but mostly Jewish and Christian scripture. And then they wrestled with the natural world and all of the awe and beauty around us. In fact, they talked about the book of nature. And then by the middle of the 19th century, more of our Unitarian ancestors began to be curious about other traditions of faith and expression, including Buddhism. In fact, one of the very first Buddhist texts translated into American English was translated by a Unitarian from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Peabody, who was a transcendentalist,
knew Emerson, probably knew some of the founders of this congregation, and she offered a translation of the Lotus Sutra in 1844 in a literary magazine in New England. Some of the scholars of American Buddhism today say that she really deserves credit for starting to introduce this vibrant and unfolding tradition into American consciousness. The text we heard today that John read so beautifully comes from the translation of the book, The Way of the Bodhisattva. This is a book that is anchored in the exploration of how to be an ethical, kind, compassionate, good person in a world that is rapidly and clearly full of suffering and pain. Our reading offers us a chance to slow down and encounter one voice from the past as we discern how we are called to be in the present. And just for context, what I love about this book is that it's by someone who is known in the tradition as an unexpected monk, someone who in many ways should not have been a monk or should not have been seen to be this great teacher, because for many who knew the writer of The Way of the Bodhisattva, he was viewed for much of his time in study as a little bit of a slacker. Way of the Bodhisattva was written by someone in the 8th century named Shantideva, who grew up in luxury, he was a prince, and eventually came to renounce the wealth that he had because he was curious about the meaning of life. There are many stories about why he made that decision. The story that I like, which is one of many, but the story that I enjoy, I first heard from Pema Chodron, and it's that when he was a teenager, his mother was preparing him for his kingly duties, and when he was getting ready to wash, she made sure that the water was scalding hot. And then when he didn't know this, and then when he began to take a bath, he screamed, "Oh my God, the water is so hot!" And then his mother cried out from the other room, "This is nothing compared to what will happen when you're king." And then he's, "I don't want this. I'm gonna become a monk." And he went to a university in northeastern India, near what is modern Bangladesh, called Nalanda, which in some ways was just this amazing institution in the ancient world where so many generations of Buddhist scholars trained. And all the different stories have slightly different versions. But while Shantideva was at this school, he was really just seen as a slacker. He didn't go to lecture from the Buddhist monks. He was never seen practicing recitation. If he was seen doing anything, it was making sure that he was at the food hall, and just kind of had this reputation of like, what is this guy doing? He's this wealthy prince, he's coming in here, he thinks he's better than us, he's not spending any time doing the work you need to do to be a monk. And the elders in the community were like, how can we teach this, kind of punk a lesson? How can we encourage him to see his deeper nature? So they thought the most effective way to do this was to invite him before the gathered community of monk scholars to give a teaching. And thought this will show him, this will encourage him to change. And they set up a large podium, and he went on top. And then he looked at one of his elder teachers and he said, "Do you want me to teach something new?" And they said, "Yes, Shantideva, we'd like you to teach us something new." And then he began, according to tradition, this hours-long recitation, what is now translated into over 10 chapters of text, with focus and style on themes like, how do you awaken your mind? What is patience? What is carefulness? How do we practice diligence and concentration and wisdom? One summary of this long book, it's about 200 pages in translation, says, "May the enlightened mind, precious and sublime, arise when it has not yet come to be. And where the enlightened mind has arisen, may it never fail. and may it grow and flourish more and evermore. What happened over the course of the recitation is the elder monks and some of his classmates who had kind of written him off realized he was deeply paying attention. It just wasn't in a way that a lot of the established teachers understood or respected. He was deeply listening from what he could hear. He was reading late at night. He was actually deeply doing the work, but not in a way that everyone in the community understood or respected. And then at the end of his recitation, he left the university and began traveling and preaching to communities all across India, because he felt that the teachings, the work of meditation and reflection and diligence and concentration, it should not be confined to one space, but should go out into the world to whoever is interested. His teaching is called the Way of the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva is an enlightened teacher who in Buddhist tradition could go on to total enlightenment, could reach nirvana and leave this world, but instead chooses to stay amidst the sufferings and sorrows and pain of the world to help other beings. So instead of just a personal liberation and escape from suffering, someone who is a bodhisattva is someone who wants to work for collective liberation and healing and transformation. None of us are going to nirvana unless all of us are going to nirvana. And you hear that in the prayer. It's beautiful. May forests, where the forest leaves are blades and swords, become sweet groves and pleasant woodland glades. May the very pits of hell become sweet with fragrant pools, all perfumed with the scent of lotuses, and lovely with the cry of swan and goose and waterfowl, so pleasing to the ear. May the hail of weapons, lava, and fiery stones become a rain of flowers. The dedication prayer is from the penultimate chapter of the book, and it continues for stanza after stanza, and it lifts up a world of people transformed, the natural environment transformed, otherworldly spaces transformed from places of suffering and pain and punishment to healing and transformation. This text, which is over 1,000 years old, has captivated generations of Buddhist teachers, including in our contemporary times, the Dalai Lama, who said that this text is one that he holds deeply close. In fact, the Dalai Lama says, with an increase in our own sense of peace and happiness, we will naturally be better able to contribute to the peace and happiness of others. What this story suggests to me is that sometimes the work of healing and transformation may not be apparent, but it is there, and it is possible to, even amidst an environment where there is so much organized to cause us to be caught in these cycles of doubt and fear and resignation, to counter despair with imagination and say, even if I can't see it right now, there's a world where what is not, where it is healed. I think about the marches and protests that some in our congregation have done, calling on elected officials to transform. And think about a world where it's not just a statement, but one that perhaps causes some of the people who are making these decisions, whether they're staffers, whether they're individuals on the inside of all these big bureaucracies, sort of like we heard from Mary's story earlier, people who are hearing this call to love and discerning in the position I'm in my business, in my role as a civil servant, in my role as an elected official, what would it look like if I made a different decision? There is so much organized in our world, and particularly in the city, for us to be cynical and apathetic and angry. And what these Buddhist texts implore is that through diligence and intention and practice and patience and meditation and gathered communities to study text and to reflect and to discern through the gathered community, the Sangha, we're able to act in ways differently that heal. The translators of this book suggest that the radical universality of this vision is one that occurs because we can participate in it. Shantideva is not a unique individual, except in that he saw something that all of us could see. The way of this book is the way that says you can become a Buddha. You can be someone who is enlightened and healing and choose to share that with the wider world instead of just focusing on the personal transformation, which is part of the journey, but then to step forward or lean forward or move forward and invite others along the work of healing and transformation. I know later this week, on Friday, our congregation will be hosting an art build in the parish hall. People will be making posters to support Sarah, the young woman who's being held in detention. They'll be making posters to remember all those people who are in detention facilities in the US right now. And then on Monday the 17th, there'll be a vigil outside our congressperson's office, imagining a world where the lava turns to flowers, where the cruelty of these systems transforms into places that see people as people. Last night I was at a film screening of a film called The Arrivals, which documented the work of 3 community groups here in the city that were responding in 22 and 2023 when there were large numbers of folks coming from the Texas border to Port Authority. And it told the story of 3 different community groups, one in Brooklyn, one in the city, one in the Bronx, that were responding. And so much of the work was this quiet, not in front of the cameras, everyday people seeing a need and saying, what can I do? How can I step up? How can I create a ripple of connection and kindness and work to transform these eruptions of pain into spaces and sites of healing and transformation? After the film, there was a panel discussion, and one organizer who I know really well, who I've always seen in a very kind of stoic energy space, he began to cry during the conversation afterward. And I think some of it was the beauty of just being reminded that he's not alone, he's not the only person doing this work. Some of it was the pain of the moment, thinking about all the people he's done a lot of work with the Afghan community, and just how many people are not being allowed in the country or being threatened with deportation. And he knows that's one story among many. But in a world where Jamaica is suffering in the aftermath of the hurricane, where high school students are being picked up by detention, where so many of us are trying to figure out how do we relate to our loved ones or neighbors or friends across different understandings of this moment. The way of the Bodhisattva suggests to me, reminds to me that it is an ongoing process, that the journey is one that involves courage and meditation and community and study and reflection and ongoing transformation. None of us is going to nirvana unless all of us go to nirvana. And we can accompany one another in this work. The cycles of suffering are real, but that deep, sacred silence that our transcendentalist ancestors talked about, the Holy One all around us that we are part of and that is inside of us, that's so real, even in the awful moments. So may the lava turn to flowers, and may we accompany one another in this work. May it be so. For our closing hymn, I invite us to take our great hymnals and turn to hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
And remember, sing it so Carolyn can hear us a few blocks over.
Love will guide us, Jesus guide us, hope inside us, will lead the way on the road from green to green. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, Jesus guide us, hope inside us, will lead the way on the road from green to green. Love will guide us through the hard night. I think she heard us.
As we extinguish our flame, I invite forward John to lead us.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and love, and to help one another. The gathering has ended, and now our service in the world begins. I invite you to join me in putting out our chalice candle. The affirmation can be found in our order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
The unexpected monk, Shantideva, said, "All the joy the world contains comes through wishing happiness for others." All the joy the world contains comes from wishing happiness for others. May we do our part in our circles of care to respond to suffering with love, happiness, and compassion. May it be so.
So ends our service. Please